We begin in Kyiv, where French President Emmanuel Macron is pledging financial aid to Ukraine as it prepares for a potential conflict with Russia.
Moscow and NATO allies are stepping up their respective reinforcements as discussions to de-escalate tensions remain ongoing. CBS News' Natalie Brand has more from the White House.
French President Emmanuel Macron traveled to Kyiv for talks with Ukraine's president, a day after he met with Russian President Vladimir Putin for more than 5 hours. European and U.S. leaders are hoping to keep a diplomatic solution on the table. The French president said, "We have had exchanges with President Putin, and he told me that he would not be behind any escalation." But the Russian Ministry of Defense has released video of 6 warships headed to the Black Sea for military drills as part of its continued buildup. Ukraine's foreign minister says Russia needs to withdraw its forces amassed along the border as a clear message of de-escalation. Ukraine announced it will conduct its own military drills later this week. President Biden again warned of economic consequences that he said would be the most severe ever imposed if Russia invades Ukraine. The State Department says preparations are being made in case the U.S. and NATO allies need to move forward with sanctions.
There are a myriad of details and technical matters that will need to be worked out if we are in the unfortunate position of having to move forward with this strong and unified response.
A message stressed by President Biden and Germany's new chancellor during a meeting at the White House Monday. Chancellor Olaf Scholz is scheduled to meet with Putin in Moscow next week. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
And for more, let's bring in CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes. Nancy, welcome. Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby spoke to our colleagues Anne-Marie Green and Vlad Duthier earlier about what it would take to strike a diplomatic agreement with Putin. Let's listen.
It was good to see him talk to President Macron. What we'd like to see is for him to continue to talk to us and to the rest of the world community about how to de-escalate this situation. And quite frankly, Vlad, he can go a long way just by removing some of those troops from the border. But what we're seeing is the opposite. Even over just the last 48 hours, he has continued to add armed forces and capabilities around Ukraine and in Belarus.
So a lot of watching and waiting, Nancy. How are White House officials feeling about the negotiations with Russia at this point?
Well, they say, Jericka, that the talks are continuing along multiple avenues, that White House officials are talking with Russian officials. The president has had periodic conversations, of course, with Russian President Vladimir Putin. And, of course, you now see this parade of European leaders going to meet with Putin as well. Yesterday it was Macron, the German chancellor, who was here at the White House yesterday, will be meeting with Putin in about a week and a half. So talks do continue. At the same time, they haven't really yielded any concrete results. And that's something that both White House officials and Russian officials agree on. We haven't seen the Russians, for example, start to pull troops away from the Ukrainian border. In fact, if anything, as you just heard John Kirby describe, they're sending more troops to the Ukrainian border as recently as this weekend. So White House officials are looking for some kind of sign that the Russians are willing to back down here. And so far, they haven't gotten it.
And Nancy, in that White House meeting with Germany's new Chancellor Olaf Scholz yesterday, President Biden did say a natural gas pipeline from Russia to Germany would not happen if Moscow invades. So talk to us about the German Chancellor's reaction to that piece of news and how significant this pipeline is.
Well, the chancellor is in a tough position here, no question, Tanya, because Germany relies on some 32% of its natural gas from Russia. And so it knows that it has to tread carefully here. And while he has been asked repeatedly now, and was again yesterday at his press conference with President Biden, the German chancellor refuses to say point blank that he supports holding off on starting this Nord Stream 2 pipeline between Russia and Germany if Russia does, in fact, invade Ukraine. This is a piece of leverage that President Biden and many European leaders want to hold over Putin's head because they know how valuable this pipeline would be for Russia. They need to be able to sell this gas. It's one of Russia's biggest exports. But I will note that while Chancellor Scholz wouldn't come straight out and say, yes, we support holding off on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, what he did say, if you read between the lines, must have given some comfort to the White House, because what he said was that if in fact push comes to shove and Russia does invade Ukraine, Germany and the U.S. are going to be in lockstep on punishments. There's going to be no daylight between these countries. And so he seemed to be sending a signal, look, we'll be there at the end of the day. We will support, holding off on getting this pipeline started. But for a variety of political reasons, he just can't say that right now.
A lot of talk and waiting to see if there will be any action. Nancy Cordes, thank you.
You're welcome.